Hello, I'm Kathleen, and I want to welcome you to Clayton Valley Presbyterian Church to this session of Godly Play, a method based in Montessori principles of telling stories to help you wonder. Today, we're going to tell one of the stories from the sacred stories, the Hebrew scriptures. We also have stories from the Greek scriptures, the New Testament, the parables, and the stories behind me about our liturgy, the way we worship. If you will be in this room when we're able to come together, you'll want to know where I go to get this story. Right here, on the top shelf, where the stories of the people of God are located. You can see that I've brought the desert box to the circle. So many important things happened in the desert that we have to keep a piece of it in our room to help us remember. The desert is a strange and dangerous place. The sun burns hot during the day, and people have to wear protective clothing to cover them so that their skin doesn't burn. But then at night, after the sun goes down, it can suddenly be very, very cold. It's harsh. It doesn't rain much in the desert, so not very much grows. It's hard to find anything to eat or to drink in the desert. And if the wind blows, there's nothing to stop it. And so it pushes the sand and changes the shape of the desert. It's easy to lose your way in the desert. So no one goes into the desert unless they have to. After God gave Moses the 10 best ways to live, and he brought them to the people, they loved them so much, that they wanted to keep them with them always, those stone tablets. And so God told them how to make a special box. Now, we call this box an ark, but of course it's not like the kind of ark that's like a huge boat, like the one during the Great Flood. No, this ark is a special gold box covered in gold because what's inside is so precious. The people put poles on either side. That way, they could carry the ark with the 10 best ways to live with them as they traveled across the desert. But it's hard to come close to something as precious as the 10 best ways to live, to come close to the Ark of the Covenant that God made with his people. People wanted to keep it with them, but they needed to be ready. So they decided to put an incense burner, a stand to make the sweet-smelling smoke. A cloud of sweet-smelling smoke to walk through, to help them feel more ready to come close to something so precious that God had given them. But still, that wasn't enough. They needed more in order to get ready. And so, one of the things they did was to set up a table. It had 12 loaves of bread on it. One loaf for each of the tribes of Israel, representing all of God's people in their differences. And they set up the 7-branched lampstand, the menorah, to bring them light. This is different than the menorah that you see during Hanukkah, for this happened long before that. They would pass by the shewbread for the tribes, the light that represented all light. Come close to the sweet-smelling incense. But then they wanted to make it even more special. As they traveled, they decided that they would set up a tent for God. We have wood, but they used a tent. I'll leave it open so you can see inside. Even though they had the table for the showbread and the menorah and the lampstand, they needed a special place for the Ark of the Covenant that had the stone tablets with the 10 best ways. And so they set that aside. It was the Holy of Holies, where God's presence could be felt. And then they decided that only the priests would be able to enter. And the priests began to wear special clothing to go inside. To protect the Holy of Holies with the precious ark. They covered the tent with special cloth. The first one had angels woven into the cloth. This doesn't look exactly like it, but we'll use it to help us remember what it looked like. That, of course, wouldn't be enough to protect it from the harsh sun and the harsh winds and the harsh cold of the desert. And so the next layer was woven goat skin. Very, very insulating. They keep it warm at night and keep out the hot sun. The next layer was ram's wool, but dyed red. for the rare times that it might rain in the desert. For you remember, there's hardly any water. They had goat skin that was tanned into leather. With only the priests being allowed to enter, the priests need to be made ready. They put up a bronze altar for sacrifices. Perhaps a lamb. And to make sure they were clean when they entered, there was a big pool of water, almost like a well of water, a laver to wash before the priests could enter. And then they took more fabric, more tent material, and created a fence around the whole area. For this sacred space, the whole place, was called the tabernacle. And they could take it with them wherever they went as they crossed the desert toward the promised land. God came close to Aaron. Aaron was a priest, and all his sons were priests. And the Levites, one of the tribes, they were the helpers. They helped care for the tabernacle. They helped with worship. Today at Clayton Valley Presbyterian Church, we might call them sacristans. And God gave Aaron and his sons a very special blessing to give to the people. It's the one that we use today. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance and give you peace.